Once again, welcome to our Year 6 Parents' Evening. And it's a Year 6 Parents' Evening with a bit of a difference. Normally, we would be in the main hall following the second day of Year 6 induction. And myself and Mr. Dillon, who you can now see on the screen, our head of Year 7, would be talking to you and our Year 6 students all about life at SWR. And we would have our special needs coordinator, Miss Stevens, the Year 7 tutors who are with us at the moment, all present, with a few other faces that our students in September would become familiar with. However, due to COVID and due to the restrictions that we have to put in place, that simply wasn't possible, although we were all deeply disappointed that that could not take place this year. There will be, obviously, year 6 or Year 7 induction, as there will be in September in the first couple of days, and we will be sending out more details on that for you in the near future. But today or this evening is all about introducing you, welcoming you to our SWR community. I will be giving you a flavour of the school, as you can see on the slide that I have just switched over to, talking about Sir William Romney's, talking about our ethos, our culture, what we believe as a school is important for students. And then Mr. Dillon will be talking about the transition from Year 6 to Year 7 and what students will anticipate and what the next year, what the next academic year for our new Year 7 students will be like. Just a little bit of housekeeping to begin with. I think I have already muted everybody's microphones, but please could you refrain from using them while we are going through the presentation. Both Mr. Dillon and I are really confident that we'll be able to answer the majority of your questions through our slides and what we are presenting in the next 35 or 40 minutes. So while we are presenting, please refrain from raising hands. However, the chat facility is available. I've enabled that. So if you do have questions that are generic and not specific to an individual child or student, please pop them in the chat facility. I do have our deputy head teacher, Mr. Skip, in the background running Teams, and so he will be monitoring that chat facility, but we will answer those questions at the end if we have time. The final thing is, if you do have student specific questions or something that is pertinent to your child, I have put Mr. Dillon's email address on that slide, and I would recommend that you contact, in the first instance, Mr. Dillon directly. I'm very confident that he'll be able to answer all of your questions. However, if he doesn't, he'll know the person who can answer that question for you. So hopefully we will have time to answer questions before 7 o'clock. I know there's a very important football game going on at 8, maybe not as important as Year 6 into Year 7 transition, but nevertheless, I know that lots of people will be wanting to watch that semi-final in an hour or so's time. So as head teacher, I just wanted to talk about the school that I'm extremely proud to be the head teacher of. I'm very proud of the school's inclusive ethos that genuinely supports and expects students to be the best versions of themselves at all times. Obviously, this is the case in every classroom, but we also believe that behaviour, attitudes and participating in the enrichment and extracurricular and the everyday life of the school is really important as well. And I know that I will talk about that later, and I'm very confident that Mr. Dillon will also. But right now, I want to explain what our 3 core values are at Sir William Romney's, why they are important, and how we support and encourage students to show these 3 core values when they are in school, but also in their general lives when they are outside of school. Our first core value is aspiration. And we want students to show aspiration in all of their lessons, their tutor sessions, assemblies, and across the curriculum, and positively encourage students to shoot for the stars and to follow their dreams. We will not accept mediocrity or that just good enough sort of stance that we know some students sort of fall back on at times. With parent support, which is really important, we want our students to be aspirational and not be limited by themselves or any glass ceilings that they might put on themselves. Our second core value is resilience. And I think this is something that everybody has had to develop over the last 18 months. In some ways, I would say students and pupils have perhaps developed tremendous bounce back ability through live lessons, lockdowns, and living in a world that has been turned upside down in the last 12 to 18 months. But we want to continue to support students to be resilient learners and see every failure as a new opportunity to learn. So resilience is something which we will continue to work on with students through the course of next year and beyond that as well. Our third core value is collaboration, which is integral and really important when we are all working and attending a small secondary school like Sir William Romney's. Students, parents, teachers and governors, together we all belong to this SWR community, and I welcome our new students and our new parents to our community and look forward to meeting you in person in the near future. We want to encourage our students to embrace diversity, engage in their community, both in school, our local neighbourhood and further afield as well. So that collaboration is something which we believe is crucially important and something which is reflected in our curriculum through diversity and through accepting each other's strengths, talents and abilities. But also it's just as important to be showing that collaboration in those local neighbourhoods that we serve as well. Just wanted to talk a little bit about teaching and learning. As you already know, because you've all done your research, GCSE outcomes at Sir William Romney's are very good, with students making excellent progress. Students leaving the school have continued to enjoy positive progress aid scores for the last 6 consecutive years. I'm sort of taking out 2020, sorry, because it was a really strange year, like this year will be as well, but from 2019 for the 6 consecutive years there. This means that students on average, when they leave school, are achieving higher grades than expected when they enter the school at the start of year 7. The secret to this is what happens in the classroom. While it feels like a lifetime ago now, our recent Ofsted inspection only took place in February 2020. It seems much longer ago than that now. And the inspection report praises teachers' accurate assessment. I've put some quotes on the slide for you. Our planning that really allows all students, regardless of their ability, to make really good progress. Importantly, though, students are expected to actively engage in those lessons, not to be passive, and consistently demonstrate the highest standards of behaviour and positive attitudes to learning in all of their lessons at all times. Our commitment to inclusivity means that these high standards and expectations are demanded of all students, and we will support everybody to get over the barriers and to make good progress regardless of their academic profile and the barriers or the achievement that they've enjoyed in previous learning. The thing that we all believe as a staff and what we believe as an SWR community is that while academic outcomes and expectations are important to everybody, of course they are, we believe that SWR is more than just a relentless focus on exams. We really believe that we have a very real responsibility to support and develop the whole child and not just their academic ability and their GCSE grades. Therefore, students across the school are strongly encouraged to fully engage with our extensive enrichment and extracurricular programme. I've put a few photographs on there giving you a taste of some sort of the things that our new Year 7 students will have to enjoy in the years ahead, hopefully with no restrictions to prevent them from happening, because I think everybody in the last 12 to 18 months is desperate for students to come to school, enjoy it, engage, socialise with different students and different staff, and take part in a really exciting extracurricular programme. So talking to our Year 6 students who are watching this, and I look forward to seeing you all in person in September, I will give you one piece of advice this evening. Please throw yourself into the life of Sir William Romney's, take part in the sports clubs, the creative groups in art, music, drama, STEM projects, reading, debating groups. The list goes on and on. This will make you feel part of your school, will help you make other friends and help Year 7, your life through Year 7 and in the older year groups as well, really feel rewarding, exciting, and will give you even more reason to want to come to school. Students and staff have also missed our activities week that usually takes place around the beginning of July each year. We've unfortunately not been able to do it this year, neither were we able to do it in 2020, although we've already got plans for making next year, 2022, a really positive activities week for all students from year 7 through to year 10. Normally, and what we're looking forward to next year as well, there are many foreign residentials that take place in this week, including trips to Normandy, a battlefield trip to Belgium, even a trip to Rome. And this is also a week where more local trips and activities take place for students as well. Again, I'm really passionate that this will continue, and I know so many staff across the school are as well, because it demonstrates our commitment to developing the whole child and offering a really broad, enriching opportunity for all our students across the school. Talking about success and achievement, I want to congratulate every Year 6 who is watching this evening. You have not only got through the most difficult and challenging year ever, I am sure that in the months that you've been in school and all those live lessons and lockdown lessons and remote learning that you've done in your fantastic primary schools, I'm sure that you have done some really important and good learning as well. And I think that shows, as I've already said this evening, great resilience, great perseverance and growing independence already. And all of those skills will definitely prepare you for life at SWR and at any secondary school for that matter as well. As a parent and a head teacher, I know myself how difficult this year has been and that the return to school has not been easy. While the media and other experts continue to talk about catch-up and lost learning, we will not talk about this at SWR. Yes, we will work hard to support students' learning, their literacy, their numeracy, and their progress and learning across the whole curriculum. Of course we will. However, at SWR, we will provide you with important and enjoyable experiences in the classroom and around the school in general. Our most important job is to prepare you for success in the future and building skills to become a lifelong learner. And that's what I want to talk very briefly about, the skills that some students will turn up to school with at the start of year 7, and there will be other students that we will continue to work with really hard to make sure that everybody, regardless of what success is, will enjoy success through the year, through the 5 years that students will be at SWR. Normally, during exams results week, you will see lots and lots of photographs of students jumping up and down in local newspapers celebrating fantastic GCSE results. And every school up and down the country does the same on GCSE results day and A-level results day. And that is really important because we know how hard students have worked to achieve those results. But all we do is see the tip of the iceberg, the success. And that's the bit that everybody sees. And anybody who is successful in whatever walk of life, whatever exams, whatever job, whatever success they're enjoying in their personal life, what people don't see is the hard work underneath that success. And these are the real skills that we will continue to work with and build on, because primary schools have of course been working on this, and we will continue to build on these skills at the start of year 7 and through the 5 years. To be successful, again talking probably to the year 6s who are watching at the moment, we're talking about dedication, being focused on where you want to be, being focused on what you want to achieve. It might be that you want to learn to play a musical instrument. It could be that you want to get into a football team or netball team or rugby team for the first time. You might want to take part in the SWR drama production that goes on every 12 to 18 months within school. But that dedication to going to every rehearsal, going to every practice, attending every music lesson is really hard work. And it's something that people don't see, that dedication when it's a wet, rainy afternoon. Do you really want to get onto that rugby pitch and throw a ball around at each other when it's pretty miserable? The people who are successful will still put themselves out there and do it. Good habits. I know Mr. Dillon will talk about this later. Getting the right amount of sleep, 8 hours sleep, for example. Making sure that you go to bed early enough and that you wake up early enough to get to school. Also, are you eating and drinking the right things to give you every chance of being successful? Everybody, and I could talk about this in my personal and professional life as well, will get disappointed, and you will unfortunately fail. And that failure is a really important part of that learning process. And so what we really want to encourage our students across the school to embrace is that failure is a learning opportunity. What is really important is how you come back from not being successful and taking a knockback. Do you just retreat and stop and give up? I hope not. Or do you come back even harder? Do you learn from that mistake? And do you make sure that the next chance that you have, you've learned from that mistake and are more successful? Again, success, whether that is grade 2s and 3s in GCSE, grade 4s and 5, or indeed the highest grades, it doesn't matter. The students who are successful will always be able to bounce back from failure and perhaps things that they've made mistakes in. So please take part in lessons, answer questions, engage in the discussions. It doesn't matter if you're wrong, because you will learn a lot more from being wrong than getting everything right all the time. And the final thing I want to talk about is sacrifice. Sacrifice is giving things up, and I'm going to talk about Xboxes, social media, and all the rest of it. I've got 2 teenage sons. I know what it's like. And sacrifice really does mean limiting yourself on the Xbox. How much social media are you accessing? Are you going to do that piece of homework this evening, even though it's a boring history essay? I can say that because I'm a history teacher. Or are you going to go on the PlayStation or Xbox and play FIFA? Those students who are successful will be the ones who go and do the history essay first, then go to do what they want in their leisure and relaxation time afterwards. So those are the sorts of skills that we will be instilling in our students and encourage them to embrace over the next few months, but crucially across the years ahead as well. So, as I've suggested already, there are going to be times in Year 7 and throughout students' times at SWR when you think or say, and Mr. Dillon and I hear it a lot, I hate to say, that you hear students say, I don't get it, I can't do this, this doesn't work. That's entirely normal. The challenge I am going to give to our Year 6s into Year 7s is that please take a deep breath, go for a walk, whatever it might be, and then add yet at the end of your sentence. So, I don't get it yet. I can't do this yet. This doesn't work yet. And I just want to speak to parents and carers in tonight's parents' evening. This is the best way that you can support your child to become resilient, by just encouraging them to embrace the power of yet, putting those 3 little letters at the end of a statement when things are getting hard. The benefits are considerable, as I've laid out on the slide. Students will look for better feedback and try to learn from their mistakes. They will stick at work for longer. They will cope better with changes in lessons and changes in school. Hopefully, they'll get better grades. And they will, most importantly, which I know we're really passionate about SWR, is reduce that stress and manage that well-being as well, which I think is really important. So that power of yet is a very, very important message that we will work on with our new students in September. Now I'm going to hand over to Mr. Dillon, who is head of year 7, and will talk to you about what life at SWR is going to feel like for our new students. Over to you, Mr. Dillon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bell. I hope you can all hear me well enough. I apologise for a few minutes late. I was here, but then my electrics decided to totally blow across the whole house, which is the excitement of doing meetings like this on Teams. So my apologies for that. But it's lovely to meet you all, at least virtually. I hope it won't be too long till we can meet in person. But my job at SWR really is to ensure that students are essentially happy in school, which sounds a very simple thing, but also an absolutely crucial thing. So the first thing I wanted to say to you really was to talk you through a little bit about the team this year in terms of Year 7. So of course you've met Mr. Bell, our head teacher. Mrs. Blake is our assistant head teacher who oversees the pastoral provision at Sir William Romney School. Myself as head of Year 7 in transition, and we have a very talented team of tutors underneath that as well. I know lots of students are very keen to know what tutor group they'll be in for next year. I'll talk a little bit about in a moment, but you will find out in the coming weeks, I promise you. I know that's always a very exciting moment, but it's very important to get that right. I've also put the details there for Miss Stevens, who is our Senko. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about her role and the important parts of that a little bit later. So first of all, to the parents out there and the students, well done, congratulations. You had lots of choices when you decided it was the time to come to secondary school, and I'm delighted to tell you that you've absolutely made the correct choice by choosing Sir William Romney School. And the reason I feel so passionately about that is I and other colleagues across the school are very proud to develop and maintain this community where every student is supported to reach their personal, spiritual and academic potential. And really our ethos in Year 7 is centred around the 3 questions you see on the right hand side of your screen there. Am I safe? Am I valued? And am I happy? And our real belief is that if students in Year 7 across the school can answer those questions with yes, then that really is the most important step, because actually once those 3 questions are answered positively, everything else will follow. Students feel safe, valued and happy, will make good progress in lessons. They'll feel confident to take those risks and make those mistakes, which is such a crucial part of learning, as Mr. Bella's already said. Transition this year has been very different than previous years. Historically, we've been very proud of our transition programme. We normally have 3 Year 6 days in July. We have a Year 5 days as well for students in the year earlier, and we really believe that makes a huge difference in ensuring students feel very much more confident and comfortable when they join us. Sadly, this year that's not been possible for obvious reasons. However, we've worked really hard in a quite short amount of time to make sure that we offer something that is certainly comparable and works really hard to support those students in the same way. So just to give you a bit of idea of some of the things we've done so far, all of the primary schools that your children have come from have received a visit by myself. I've sat down with the Year 6 teachers from each of those schools and talked about every single child in detail. That might be to gain information on their needs, on their progress in school, but also just those little things that make them tick, just those things that really motivate them and ensure they're happy, really. You've also completed your admissions paperwork, which I'm very grateful for. Again, that was a huge insight into the students we welcome into Year 7 and can give us a real head start in getting to know them and develop those relationships, which is absolutely crucial. And of course, you are here joining us for our Year 6 information evening, which hopefully I hope you'll find useful. So the next things that are going to come, we'll talk a little bit about this in following slides as well. But from next week, I'll be visiting as many primary schools as I possibly can before the end of term, just to do some follow-up visits and sessions around reducing anxiety surrounding transition, a bit more information, and also obviously crucially a question and answer opportunity as well. We've developed some transition booklets, which I'll talk about a little bit later. We've got our YouTube channel, SWR TV, which is full of lots of resources, and we'll be continuing to upload things as the next few weeks progress. And again, I'll put signpost you a bit more clearly to that on subsequent slides. And also this year group has got a unique opportunity really, because they're involved with some university research which really focuses on transition and their emotional well-being and their perspectives and how they're feeling essentially, which can inform us during this transition process, and indeed in future years as well. Thank you so much for all of you who have returned your consent forms already. That's really grateful for that. Thank you. So the first thing I want to do point you to is our SWR TV YouTube channel, and it has a number of videos from last year, and we had some already for this year, and we will continue to do so over the next few weeks to support students as they make that transition. We know transitioning from Year 6 to Year 7, it's widely documented, it is one of the most challenging, if not the most challenging part of a young person's educational journey. So we're quite passionate about making sure that all of as many opportunities there really to familiarise them with the site, staff, and the routines we have at SWR. So it's really simple, but I've put some screenshots there to give you a bit of a hand. So all you need to do is go on YouTube, search SWR TV, click on SWR TV, then playlists, and then I've created a playlist which you can see in the bottom right hand side there, which is called SWR Year 6 Transition. There's about 4 or 5 videos in there already, but as I say, over the coming weeks we will be adding to that, which hopefully will be really useful for you. The second thing I've put in place is this year's transition booklet. Now, this is you will either receive this in the post or you might receive it through the primary school as well, depending on time and everything else. And essentially, this transition booklet contains activities, again, to ensure students feel prepared. So it's split into 2 halves, really. Each week, there are 2 activities to complete. The first one is a transition activity. You can see an example on the left-hand side there. In this case, it's an equipment checklist. Something as simple as coming to school on your first day with the right equipment can make a huge difference in how you feel, and potential anxiety that can surround, making sure you're getting things right, which is, we know from previous years, that's what our students feel on the first day. Also alongside that, we've got an activity that will prepare for learning. So you can see on the right hand side there, Mr. Davis, our art teacher or head of art, has designed a couple of activities for students to have a go at. These activities will be linked to the first lesson, the first art lesson in this case, that Year 7 will enjoy in September. So again, that hopefully will make them feel a little bit more ready really to access the curriculum, and they'll feel that they know what to expect when they turn up to their art lesson. So there's 5 weeks of activities in there. And I would really encourage you to support your child in completing this. So maybe, set aside 20 minutes a week just to sit down and go through that booklet, because I think it really will make a difference in terms of their transition. Another activity that I'd like to invite all of our Year 6 students to take part in is our SWR Field of Dreams. It has been a very, very different and challenging year, or couple of years for us all. And as we hopefully make some steps towards normality, we've heard that before, haven't we? But I'm hopeful that we can come together as a school and we can look forwards to our hopes and aspirations for the next year, essentially. So our students in school will be in the final week creating a butterfly on which they will write their hopes and aspirations, and we will be displaying that on the school site as a real kind of celebration of our school community. I'd really like Year 6 students to be involved as well. So you can make a butterfly. A5 size is absolutely fine. I'll attach it to the stick and everything else. Or if that's a little bit difficult for you, you can absolutely just email your hope and aspiration for the your first year at SWR, and I'll make you a butterfly. How's that? There you go. And we can display that as well. If we could do that by Friday the 16th, that's next Friday, that'd be really helpful, so we can make sure that all of our students from Year 6 all the way to Year 10 at the moment could be represented and part of it. I also want to talk a little bit about reading. Reading is an absolute key whole school focus at William Romney School, because we know the students find school and life easier if literacy skills are regularly, consistently practiced. So essentially what I mean by that is, if you find reading difficult, then you are going to potentially find a lot of your lessons a bit more difficult to access. So we can support, we do a lot of work to support literacy in school, but there's also things, of course, you can be doing at home. And I know a lot of you are used to doing your, reading of an evening with your children, and I would absolutely encourage you to continue that. Please don't think, oh, they're in secondary school now, we don't need to do the, the guided reading with our children. Absolutely keep doing that. That can happen in many different ways. You can read to them, they can read to you. But also there's some more general comments here as well, just about making reading relevant to students who might be a little bit more disengaged with reading. So first is look for opportunities to get your child reading anything. There's sometimes a misconception that it has to be a very serious book in order to develop reading. That's not necessarily true. Magazines, recipes, if you're cooking together, then they can read the recipe, for example, something as simple as that. Nothing wrong with an autobiography, film reviews, anything along that way. As long as they're reading, that's really positive. Audiobooks as well can be really useful if you're going on your caravan holidays over the summer, or your walking holidays, wherever you're doing. If you're driving to your destination, an audiobook can be a really useful thing to do together as well. I'd consider creating moments in the week where you drop everything and read. Maybe Sunday lunchtime is a time in your house where, right, we're all going to read for an hour now, and that can really push that value of reading and show that you as a family really value it and think it's important, which in turn your children will too. There's plenty of fictional titles as well. So the Guinness World Book of Records, for example, it's a factual book. It's not a fictional book. That is again just as valuable as reading something that's more fiction based. And I've got a couple of links there as well, which you'll be able to review once Mr. Bell has we've uploaded the recording, but just to have a look at the young adult novel genre, because actually for those students who may be reading quite a bit but are struggling with what to read next, and some things might seem a little bit mature for them and other things babyish, there's plenty of recommendations there that are really pitched at the right level to motivate. And also visit your local library. I read a lovely quote the other day that said libraries are one of the last places in existence, where you are encouraged to spend time but not spend money. I think was quite a powerful thing when I read that, and it's something that I think as time progresses, less and less people do. But again, that can be a really important step in terms of valuing reading and valuing a place that's fully dedicated to reading. Again, you can ensure that your child sees that you value reading. That's really important. They will watch what you do, of course, and they will mimic it as they do with us. So leave your books and magazines kind of around the house. Make reading very, very kind of present in your household. Avoid forcing children to read something they're not interested in, because that can really develop quite a negative relationship potentially with reading if it's not their favourite thing to do anyway. So it should, very much be child-led, really. What do they want to read? What are they interested in? Getting them something relevant is really going to motivate them to do that. You've got the good old book vouchers as gifts. That always comes from, particularly at the moment when we're a little bit distanced from each other. Oh, what do we get for Christmas, birthdays, whatever it might be, for our nieces, nephews, sons, daughters. Book vouchers is also a nice thing to do. Books with movies as well. If they've got a favourite film, read the book. If they've read a book and think it's fantastic, watch the film that goes along with it. It just keeps that flow of interest through. You've got kind of graphic novels, which people kind of think, oh, it's a comic book, it's not really relevant. Well, absolutely, there's literacy in there, there's words to read in there, really, really important and valuable as well. And of course, you've got the poetry and verse as well, which can motivate some where kind of novels or books might not. So poetry and novels, absolutely, and verse. Please do have a think about that too. Okay, on some housekeeping, I suppose, at SWR. We have very high expectations for things like uniform. We think taking pride in ourselves and the way we look is very, very important, because it does indeed spill over into taking pride in how we conduct ourselves and approach our learning too. So just a reminder, I know many of you will have already ordered your uniform. If you haven't yet, I put the link on the bottom left hand side there. It's Price Bookland, when you order through their website. So we expect students to come to school with a white shirt that is tucked in with the top button done up, a tie. Now, I know you wouldn't have been able to order a tie from the Price and Bookland website at the moment, and that's because in September we're actually making a move with our ties to join it with our house system, just to create a bit more of a sense of identity around that. So that will be processed in September, so please don't worry about that. We haven't got a tie for our first day. Nobody will, and we'll sort that out very quickly in September. We've got SWR grey V-neck jumper as well, and we do ask that students keep that with them, even though they might take it off through the day. We request that they do have that with them, even if they're not necessarily wearing it, because it's a warm day. They have absolute choice of skirt, trousers or shorts. It's entirely up to individual students, so we don't have a preference. That is up to you. But we do ask, if you're going to wear a skirt, it's to the knee, so an appropriate length. Black trousers if you're wearing trousers, and normal fitting, so nothing that's I don't know, particularly tight or skinny jeans, anything like that. We don't like those. It must be a normal fitting school trouser, and tailored shorts. Okay, if you choose to wear shorts. Socks and tights, we expect those to be white, black or grey, and shoes must be black as well with a low heel. We don't have we don't specify that they need to be a particular style of shoe. Some of our students choose to wear trainers, for example. That is fine as long as they are fully black. So, for example, some have they're fully black with a white night tick. We wouldn't accept that. It needs to be a fully black shoe, just to ensure that level of consistency across our uniform, that sense of identity as well. We also have very high expectations for attendance and punctuality. So our expectation is students attend school 100% of the time. There's some circumstances where we understand that might not be absolutely possible, but that's what we're all absolutely aiming for, and that's our expectation. We do reward excellent attendance too, and we reward that through house points, and we do sometimes do attendance reward trips as well, so students can qualify for certain treats if they've had a certain level of attendance, and there's a lottery towards the end of the year as well, which again students are entered into should their attendance be high enough. If your child is unwell, we ask that you ring the school absence line, please, and I'll put the number there for you. Crucially, that we have that on the first day of on every day of absence. So I think some people feel that, oh, I'll just ring on the first day, even though they might be off for a couple of days, and that's covered it. It's really important we get that regular contact, and that's part of our safeguarding duties as well. So please do give us a call on each day of the absence. And as soon as symptoms of unwellness stop, COVID's slightly different from this, of course, but we ask that you return to school. So some schools, some people have the understanding that, oh, there must be a 48-hour window. We don't run that. If symptoms stop, as I say, COVID might be slightly different, then we would like them to come back to school. We do ask as well that you make routine appointments outside of school time, so doctors, dentists, places like that, because we know just small amounts of absence can make a huge difference. We do appreciate, though, some medical practitioners, particularly orthodontists, consultant appointments, those kind of things. You often get a letter that says this is when your appointment is, and you don't really have a choice about that. And of course, we understand that, and we'll work with you to make sure that as little disruption as possible is there. I put the names and email addresses of our 2 school welfare officers on the right hand side there as well. That's Mrs. Andrews and Mrs. Pounds, and they work in the school welfare office to support students with attendance and support families with attendance too. So if you've got any concerns around attendance, I would absolutely encourage you to make contact with the very talented team there. In September, along with their nice new tie, they will get their new tie because all new students will be allocated a new house. So we have, alongside our year group model, we have a house system SWR2. So all students and staff are sorted into one of 4 houses that are named after star constellations as part of our aspirational ethos at Sir William Romney School. So first house is Pegasus. We then have Andromeda, Hydra, and Orion. And students will belong to that house and can earn house points for that house too. So house points can be awarded inside lessons and outside lessons. It might be for showing a lot of resilience as they attempt a piece of work. It might be for being particularly kind to someone, particularly helpful to someone. A variety of reasons we would award house points. Students will absolutely earn them for their house, and we do have a house shield at the end of the year when we see which house has got the most houses, but also individually they can spend them in the House Point shop, and this is in the library. Another way that we try and motivate students, and essentially they can go to Miss Trowell, who mans the House Point shop in the library, our very talented librarian, and they can exchange their house points for things like stationery, footballs. There's a voucher for the canteen, and some of you may have seen our Facebook feed over the last couple of days that if you have a certain amount of house points, you can trade them in for tea and cakes with Mr. Bell. How lovely is that? I always think I should undercut Mr. Bell. I'll have to find out how many it is for tea and cakes, Mr. Bell, and I'll just come 5 under, perhaps.
150 points, Mr.
150. Dillon. Well, for 100 points, you can have tea and cakes, Mr. Dillon. Well, that's again a lovely opportunity for students who are consistently doing the right things to have some time with the head teacher and contribute to how they're feeling about the school and some reflections. I know Mr. Bell really values the conversations he has in those sessions. As part of the house system as well, you will be have house assemblies where you come together as a house. So that's really nice because we have in each house there's some year 7 students, year 8, year 9, year 10. So again, that's a lovely sense of identity in school community. That'll be run by the head of house. And that's very much a celebration assembly, really. So they'll launch house competitions, they'll share results from some competitions. They might, so for example, we had a photography competition with some amazing entries to that, and we'll share some of the photographs that are set there. They'll be awarded their prizes and so on. And we also have occasionally house tutor time as well, and that might be to organise teams for Sports Day, which again you'll be competing for your house in July. So yes, that's something really nice to look forward to. And as I say, this year as well, we will have our house ties as well, which will again make a very visible identity for the houses across the school. I'm sorry, Year 6, I do have to talk about homework, if briefly. So our homework policy, I think is very fair, actually. It's the fairest of any school I've worked in. So you'll see on the left-hand side there, I've given you an example. This is by no means what will happen in September this year necessarily. It's just a bit of an example from a previous year. And you'll see that homework is set for almost all subjects that students will study. Now, that can sound very overwhelming, can't it? You think you're not going to come home with 10 pieces of homework. It very much doesn't work like that. Essentially, what happens is we work in 2-week windows. Within that first 2 weeks, the students might be given, for example, maths homework. They have 2 weeks to complete that. They hand it in, and then the next 2-week window starts where other subjects will set homework. So we do keep it as manageable as possible, and understand it's really important to stagger that across the year, so the learning is extended in each of those subjects, but it doesn't come overwhelming. Of course, we award house points for completion on time too. Something that's very important as well is Homework Club, which is on a Monday and a Thursday, and that's run by Miss Trowell, our librarian. And that's a really lovely opportunity for students who either just want to get their homework done straight after school and they don't have to worry about it. Some students might find, I know it was like that when I was at school, when they go home, there's siblings running around everywhere, cats, dogs and everything else, and it's just very difficult to find a quiet place to really focus. That can be a really positive option too. And it can be, Miss Trowell is very good at encouraging a lot of our students and supporting them as well to complete their homework to a really high standard. Here's some examples of how our homework works well. So the example on the screen there is a piece of art homework, and we're very passionate to make sure that everyone can access the homework, but also there's plenty of opportunities for stretch and challenge. So you can see here, this is usually one of the first pieces of art homework, and it's essentially to design the school Christmas card. And you see there's various options, increasing in difficulty as it goes through, and also increases in the skills that are required and the skills that can be developed too. So we always try and make it very, very achievable and accessible, but also very aspirational in nature. Mobile phones, the contentious mobile phones. So we've tried a number of things with mobile phones, as you can imagine, over the last couple of years, because mobile phones can be a problem. They can. My biggest gripe with mobile phones, if I'm honest, is when you come in year 7, you need to be talking to each other, not staring at your screens. And that's really important in terms of building friendships and socialising. However, it's also very important that we recognise that mobile phones are part of our lives as adults, as young people, and increasingly so. I also think the word mobile phone is wrong. You're actually walking around with a computer in your pocket now, aren't you? It's not a phone anymore. So, you know, they're absolutely really useful tools, and we really think that students need to be able to be supported to use them in a healthy, responsible and manageable way, rather than just saying, oh, we're not having phones. That's our current kind of policy on that. Maybe Mr. Williamson will make a change there. So our stance is that mobile phones can be used outside of the school building at break times and lunch times, but not in lesson times. As you can imagine, the focus is learning. There may be times when that is specifically allowed by a teacher. So, for example, if there's a quick research activity that needs to be done in music, for example, we might look at a particular performance. So YouTube might be useful there, and so on. So if it's specifically allowed, then obviously that's fine. But we expect in any other situation in the classroom, we don't see or hear it. If those expectations aren't adhered to and respected, what will happen is the mobile phone will be confiscated and held in the main office to then be collected at the end of the day. And hopefully that just encourages students to realise there are boundaries with this. We are encouraging you to use them in the most appropriate way, but walking around with your phone glued to your face is not a desirable outcome for us at all. I'm sure you as parents too. There is something I want to talk to you about in terms of, I've called it parent beware, because I know at the end of year 6 is often a time where mobile phones become a massive topic of conversation in your houses, because such and such has got one and can I have one, and I know the parents have this kind of, you know, battle in their heads. They're trying to weigh up the pros and cons. But I thought it'd be really helpful to share with you some of the recommended age recommendations, I suppose, for some of the most popular apps that our students, we know students use. Obviously, your children will be joining us at age 11 or 12, so they're actually below the age recommendation for any of the apps you see on the screen there. There are reasons for this. If you look in the 13+ category, for example, I'll draw your attention to Snapchat, and then to the map just on the right-hand side there. Now, one of the settings on Snapchat, for example, first of all, you can add anyone. As long as you've got their username, you can add someone to Snapchat. And you can then see exactly where they are in the world. So you can see the map there. You can zoom in further than that to the degree that you can see what house that person is sat in currently. That's how scary it is. So you can see potentially there's a huge risk there in terms of students befriending people online that they may not know. And then, you know, it becomes a huge issue, and obviously that map feature is enabled. You can turn the map feature off, which I would absolutely encourage anyone to do who's using Snapchat. But these age recommendations are there for a reason. So I know there's a lot of pressure because, oh, such and such has got WhatsApp in school and I haven't got it. But that really relies, I suppose, on you as parents to hold the fort and go, no, we're not going to allow this. as much as you can, I suppose. It does cause a wealth of social and potential safety issues, as I've said. But I think what is really important and crucial is that you feel able and do monitor what your child is accessing. I think it's all very tempting because we use phones so much to go, here's your phone, off you go. The reality is it's really important as parents that you're checking what they're doing. Yes, I know there's comments potentially around privacy here, but this is about making sure that students and your children are given the right tools to access it properly. And it's really important, certainly at year 7, that you as parents are monitoring that and setting those boundaries. I've also put on, excuse me, on the bottom of the screen there, the National Online Safety website, which is really useful. If you're feeling a bit like, I don't really know much about phones, my children know a bit more than me, that can be a really good resource in order just to kind of clue you up a little bit. And the final thing on mobile phones, that they can hugely affect sleep. I highly recommend that you agree with your children that devices are taken away at bedtime, put on charge somewhere outside the bedroom until the next morning. Otherwise, the temptation is there, and trust me, it's real, because we do see it, reasonably often, that they're essentially sitting on their phones to God knows what time in the morning. As a result, they get not enough sleep, and coming to school without enough sleep has an enormous effect on behaviour, academic progress, and indeed this general happiness and well-being as well, which we all know is so important. So I think it's really important. I think it's really important with the mobile phone use of young people that the boundaries are set really clearly, and you as the parent and adult, you are in control of that situation. Just want to bob into clubs as well, because I know that's something that our year 6 students are very excited about. So this is just a bit of an example of some of the clubs we've offered this term. So you can see there are each day there's something on offer, ranging from the year 7 food and dining club, where you go to get to cook your lunch and eat it with other people in the club, cross country clubs, homework club, of course, art club, there's a STEM club, debating club, netball, chess, DT, music, drama. The list really is endless, in addition to all of our sports clubs as well. And I would absolutely and utterly encourage every single year 6 out there listening to attend as many of those as possible. 1, it gives you an opportunity to do something you really like. 2, something you might have never tried before and you will like, but also to meet lots of new people as well and develop those friendships. So you will get obviously details of what's on offer in September, but I would really encourage you to take good notice of that. And finally, I just want to point you in the direction of our SENCO. So our SENCO is SENCO, for those of you who are not sure, is shorthand for Special Educational Needs Disabilities Coordinator. So Miss Stevens is in charge of ensuring that everyone is able to access the curriculum, supporting them when they might find that a little bit more difficult. So I put her email address there. Our students who hold an EHCP, we will be writing to you imminently, I suppose, to just tell you a few little things that we can do to support you. But Miss Stevens has asked me to pass on that if your child is currently supported by MyPlan or MyPlan Plus, we have likely received it because, as I say, all those meetings have gone on. But it would be helpful, particularly it's busy time of the year when all of our lists as teachers are very, very long. If you could encourage your primary schools to send them, and just check they've sent them to us, because it is really crucial, as I'm sure you'd agree, for the continued support of all of our students, that we have that relevant information. I think that's me done. I think, Mr. Bell, is that right? Have I got one more, or is that you?
No,
questions?
That is it. Both Mr. Skip and I have been answering a few questions on the chat as we have gone along, just to clarify 1 or 2 things. So one parent did ask whether or not the transition booklets that Mr. Dillon was talking about, when will they be available? Some will be posted directly to your home address if we're anticipating we're not being able to get to your school in the next week or so. However, Mr. Dillon's already said that he will also be visiting primary schools next week and distributing them to students themselves. Is that right, Mr. Dillon?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Another parent has asked whether students are expected to have mobile phones in school, and the answer is absolutely not. They are not crucial, they are not needed, and in fact we would probably support that. However, what we do understand is that some parents would want their child to bring a mobile phone with them because they are travelling longer distances to and from school. Many of our students, as you already know, do have to catch a bus to get to SWR and to get back home in the evening. So it's there as an option. It is not a requirement whatsoever. With only a few minutes remaining, if anybody would like to answer any, put the questions in the chat, and me and Mr. Dinner will do our best, rather than typing them, just to answer them in person, I think would be better. One parent has just asked, where should children report to on their first day? I'm going to hand that over to Mr. Dinner because he'll have some very clear thoughts on that, I'm sure.
Absolutely. So some of the supporting materials that are going to be uploaded to the SWR TV channel will talk you through that a little bit more. But essentially, they will be entering the student entrance. They will, as soon as they come off the bus or arrive at school, there'll be lots of staff there to guide them and point them in the right direction on their first day. Because on our first day in September, it will just be Year 7 students. So the whole staff body will be ready to welcome and guide students on their first visit or first day, I suppose, at SWR.
Thank you. I can answer this one quite well, actually. Where can we find more information about travelling options to the school from Stroud? Contact our main office and they will definitely be able to point you in the direction. You will have two options. One option is a private arrangement with Applegate's coaches, and we can put parents in contact with Applegate's. And some parents choose to pay a direct debit directly to Applegate's to guarantee a seat on the Applegate coach that leaves Merry Walks around 8 o'clock in the morning, or should be the Five Valley Shopping Centre now, shouldn't it? At 8 o'clock in the morning, and usually gets onto our site, traffic permitting and work and roadworks permitting, around 8:45, 20 to 9, 8:45 in the morning. So that's one option that some parents prefer to use. The other option is that Stagecoach are now putting more or less a SWR bus on that runs exactly the same time. That runs from the Five Valley Shopping Centre, a collection about students about 8:05, and getting onto site, go through Minchinhampton for about 8:45. And some parents prefer their children to go on that because it offers a bit more flexibility if you're doing a mixed travel arrangement, for example. And obviously there's a weekly bus pass there. That Stagecoach bus, just to put parents' minds at rest, does drop students off on the school site, same as the other coaches that use the service, and also collect students from the school site at the end of the day. So there's no need for them to leave the site, sorry. Another question there about, does the canteen only take cash? At the moment they do. However, I know that by September we will, touch wood, fingers crossed, be cashless as well. So parents can either top up via Parent Pay, and we are introducing a cashless system. So more details will be provided on that in September, but we're hoping to be cashless. School meals, I think I have no idea. There could be a couple of pounds, I think.
I think it's £2.20 for me the other day, I think, my last check.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon.
Food.
I think we've obviously done such a good job that we've answered most people's questions. Again, though, please keep them coming if you need to on the chat facility. If there's questions that are more pertinent to your child and more relevant to your child in particular, as I said at the start of the presentation, please don't hesitate to contact Mr. Dillon in the first instance, and I'm sure that he will be able to answer most questions. However, if it's something that is more SEN related, you've obviously got Ms. Stevens's contact details now and email address, and she will be delighted to answer questions. And if Mr. Dillon needs to field it to somebody else, he's more than able to do so. About children catching the bus on the first day, I would say that Year 7s are more than able to catch the bus on the first day. It is perfectly safe either on the Applegates or on the Stagecoach or on the other county services that run from Nailsworth and Horsley. And as Mr. Dillon has already said, staff will be on site to receive the children and to welcome them, most importantly, and then safely bring them into the right places that they need to be. I would say that is a parental preference. It's totally your choice. I'm not seeing any other questions, so I would like to thank all of you for attending this evening and for allowing us to welcome you, as I said at the start, to the SWR community. I wish that we could be in person because we could have a few more personal one-to-one chats and welcome you a little bit easier. that will be an opportunity for us to do that early in September, and we will endeavour to make sure that that is the case. As I said also, that this recording has been recorded, so we will be putting that up and available on the SWR TV YouTube channel, I'm sure, so that parents who haven't been able to access it will still be able to see it. And of course, you can access it for future reference as well. For now, I'd like to thank everybody for attending. Thank you, Mr. Dillon, for all the information that you've presented this evening as well. And we both, alongside all the other staff who are working at SWR, look forward to welcoming everybody on the 2nd of September and looking forward to getting working with the students and seeing you all in person. Thank you very much. Enjoy your summer and take care. Thank you.